So friends, how are you all? As we continue trying to understand the internal conflicts of the Islamic world, we had reached the point where Iran and Iraq were at war, and at the same time, revolutionary changes had taken place in both Saudi Arabia and Iran. The friendship that once existed between these two influential Muslim countries gradually turned into rivalry, and both began walking on a path of open opposition. On the other side, Iraq and Egypt were also experiencing their own internal shifts, ideological changes, and political realignments. Small events, newspaper headlines, speeches, and policy decisions were shaping deeper revolutions beneath the surface. You have already seen the earlier parts of this story. Now we move forward from here to understand how Saudi Arabia and Iran began working to expand their influence across the Islamic world. Friends, if we go back to 1965, when the war between India and Pakistan was ongoing, Pakistan was going through extremely difficult economic and military circumstances. Oil wealth had not yet transformed the Muslim world the way it would later, and Pakistan's situation became very challenging during the conflict. At such a time, the King of Saudi Arabia, Faisal bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud, extended significant financial assistance to Pakistan so it could sustain itself against India. The exact amount was never officially disclosed, but it was widely understood to be substantial. This support laid a strong foundation for strategic relations between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia wanted to increase its influence in what was then one of the largest Muslim countries in the world. Remember, before 1971, Pakistan was considered the largest Muslim country by population, even larger than Indonesia at that time, because East Pakistan was still part of it. Today, Indonesia holds that position, but at that time, Pakistan represented the largest demographic weight in the Muslim world. King Faisal tied a powerful knot in this relationship after the war ended. In 1966, he paid a historic 6-day visit to Pakistan. At that time, Karachi was still the capital, President Ayub Khan was in power, and Islamabad's infrastructure was being developed, though it had not yet fully become the declared capital. The country had just emerged from a dangerous war, and its economy was under strain. In such circumstances, a week-long visit by the ruler of a wealthy and influential Arab state carried enormous symbolic and diplomatic value. It signaled to the world that Pakistan was not isolated. During this visit, a major decision was made to construct a grand international-level mosque in Islamabad. The total estimated cost of the project was around $43 million, out of which approximately $28 million were contributed by King Faisal. Because of this generous support, the mosque was named after him. Today, it is known as the Faisal Mosque. Although the mosque was completed after King Faisal's assassination, it remains a lasting symbol of that relationship. If you have ever seen Faisal Mosque, you may have noticed that its design is unlike traditional mosques. It does not have a central dome like many mosques in Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, or even in Al-Masjid an-Nabawi in Medina, which features multiple domes. Faisal Mosque's architecture resembles a Bedouin desert tent, set against the backdrop of the Margala Hills, creating a striking visual landscape. Its 4 250-foot minarets stand tall, symbolizing strength and a deep bond between the two nations. The design was selected after an international competition among architects from around the world. Thus, beyond being a place of worship, it became a symbol of Saudi Arabia's influence and partnership in Pakistan's capital. During that same visit, President Ayub Khan renamed a major road in Karachi in honor of King Faisal. Later, during the period when Faisalabad received its name, the connection was further institutionalized. The 1966 visit became a milestone in Pakistan-Saudi relations. Military cooperation also began to expand during this era. The Pakistani Air Force started providing training and technical assistance to Saudi Arabia. This cooperation soon bore fruit. Within a few years, a serious issue emerged on Saudi Arabia's southern border involving South Yemen, which had recently gained independence and adopted a socialist orientation aligned with the Soviet bloc. Historical tensions between Yemen and the Arabian Peninsula had long existed. In the early years after independence, border disputes intensified and clashes occurred in certain contested areas. Saudi Arabia, despite its oil wealth, faced challenges in dealing with the situation militarily. Pakistan's assistance became significant. It is often said that Pakistan only provided training, but there are accounts suggesting Pakistani pilots were directly involved in operations. Officially, this was not publicized, but the cooperation was real. Interestingly, just 2 years after Pakistan supported Saudi Arabia, the situation reversed. In 1971, when India attacked Pakistan and the crisis led to the separation of East Pakistan, Saudi Arabia openly supported Pakistan. King Faisal condemned India's actions and described the aggression as unjust against a Muslim country. After the fall of Dhaka and the surrender by General Niazi, there were fears that India might extend operations towards West Pakistan. At that time, Saudi Arabia reportedly provided military equipment and aircraft support to strengthen Pakistan's defenses. This demonstrated how deep the strategic relationship had become. However, it is important to clarify that Iran was not hostile towards Pakistan during this period. The Islamic Revolution had not yet taken place. The Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, maintained friendly ties with Pakistan. During the 1965 war, Iran provided military equipment to Pakistan with American approval. The United States did not want to appear openly supportive of Pakistan against India, so assistance sometimes came through third parties like Iran. Even during 1972, when Zulfikar Ali Bhutto sought funding for Pakistan's nuclear program, he initially approached the Shah of Iran. While Iran declined direct funding, the very fact that Bhutto approached Tehran shows the level of trust and diplomatic engagement that existed at the time. In 1974, during the Islamic Summit Conference held in Lahore under Bhutto's leadership, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan further expanded their defense cooperation. Pakistani forces, especially the Air Force, were to provide structured training to Saudi personnel. The relationship continued under King Khalid after Faisal's death. Saudi Arabia initially did not recognize Bangladesh, partly because Pakistan itself delayed recognition. Only after political changes in Dhaka and shifts towards Islamic identity did Saudi Arabia formally recognize Bangladesh. While these alliances were strengthening, a major upheaval was taking place in another part of the Muslim world. In 1979, the Soviet Union sent its troops into Afghanistan. At that time, Afghanistan was governed by the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan, a Marxist-leaning party aligned with Moscow. Internal factionalism, instability, and fear of losing control led the Soviet Union to intervene directly. On December 24, 1979, Soviet troops entered Kabul. Operation Storm 333 resulted in the killing of President Hafizullah Amin, and Babrak Karmal was installed as the new leader. The Soviet move triggered a new phase in the global Cold War. The United States could not accept Soviet expansion into such a strategic region. Afghanistan bordered Pakistan and sat near the warm waters of the Arabian Sea. The U.S., still recovering from its painful experience in Vietnam, where Soviet support had aided American adversaries, now sought to counter Moscow. Thus began a proxy war. In simple terms, a proxy war means that powerful states avoid direct confrontation and instead support local forces to fight on their behalf. In Afghanistan, the United States provided weapons and financial support, Saudi Arabia matched funding, and Pakistan became the frontline state. Pakistani intelligence services coordinated training for Afghan fighters. Thousands of young Muslims from across the region were mobilized under the narrative that Soviet expansion threatened Islam and regional sovereignty. One doctrine promoted during this time was the idea that if the Soviets were not stopped in Afghanistan, they would advance towards Pakistan and ultimately seek access to warm waters. The argument was that Soviet ports were frozen for much of the year, limiting naval operations, so access to warm water ports was strategically important. Critics later argued that the Soviet objective was primarily to stabilize a friendly regime in Kabul rather than invade Pakistan. But regardless of the debate, the narrative was effective. It mobilized thousands of volunteers. As the war intensified, young men left their studies and careers to join the Afghan jihad. Training camps emerged, funding flowed from Washington and Saudi Arabia. In return, Saudi Arabia strengthened its alliance with the United States, and Pakistan received significant strategic benefits. Among them was American tolerance towards Pakistan's nuclear program. In the 1980s, despite knowing about Pakistan's atomic ambitions, the U.S. refrained from imposing harsh sanctions, partly because Pakistan's cooperation was vital in Afghanistan. Saudi financial support also helped Pakistan advance its nuclear development. While the United States and the Soviet Union fought their Cold War battle in Afghanistan, another layer of rivalry unfolded beneath the surface: the emerging competition between Saudi Arabia and post-revolutionary Iran for influence in the Muslim world. Afghanistan became not just a battleground of superpowers, but also a stage for ideological and sectarian competition. Saudi Arabia had its strategy closely aligned with Pakistan and the United States. Iran, after its 1979 Islamic Revolution, developed its own approach towards Afghanistan and the wider region. These competing visions would later create internal divisions within Pakistan itself and reshape regional politics in ways that are still visible today. How many billions of dollars did the U.S. spend in Afghanistan? How were young Muslims drawn into a conflict driven by global power politics? What were the long-term consequences of this proxy war? And how did Saudi Arabia and Iran's strategic calculations deepen divisions across the Muslim world? We will place these next chapters before you in the upcoming part of this series, because only by understanding both plans together can we fully grasp how this war created fractures not only in Afghanistan, but also inside Pakistan and across the broader Muslim world.